and welcome to Anime Audio Commentary. Today I'll be commenting over episode 11 of Kill la Kill. If you'd like to watch along, start watching now. So last we left off, Ryuko was in the middle of fighting Jakuzure, the non-athletic committee chair, and initially things weren't going too well for Ryuko. She was sort of fighting on the back foot, having not been able to cope with the ranged weaponry and the flight capabilities of the Symphony Regalia. But she's managed to transform Senket so that she is also able to fly and therefore able to keep up. So while this fight's going on, we have a stranger who looks rather out of place walking through the slums outside of Honnoji Academy. And she's consistently walking up towards Honnoji Academy. So Jakuzure, her ego is clearly bruised by Ryuko being able to fly, so now she's really going after her. And I think, fittingly, the classical music in the background is the can-can, and that's a piece of music I really like. So Ryuko, having the edge and maneuverability, is able to sort of circle around Jakuzure and is using her scissor blade to start carving up the Symphony Regalia. So all the fighting is going on. Mako is still in a tenuous situation between Inamuda and Gamagori. Gamagori in particular is none too happy about the way the fight's going, especially because Jakuzure is being reckless and is giving in to Ryuko's provocation. So speaking of provocation, Ryuko is taking the opportunity to take a pot shot at Satsuki, only to be intercepted quickly. So Ryuko thought she would just take advantage of the situation, but Jakuzure definitely won't let that happen. So I guess in a flash of inspiration, Ryuko's taken the opportunity to turn some of Jakuzure's ordnance back on her. And in doing so, it looks like she's finally secured herself a victory. So Ryuko's managed to destroy the majority of the construct of the Symphony Regalia. So I guess in terms of whether or not Ryuko can beat Jakuzure, it's all over bar the shouting. So, funnily enough, Senketsu was not able to absorb the life fibers from the Symphony Regalia. And at this point, it's not immediately clear why. So, the crowd's chanting that they want the fight to continue. Alright, well, I guess we know the reason why now. It turns out that Jakuzure was not truly defeated. Her Goku uniform is transforming once more. So now they're playing some more nice classical music, particularly Beethoven's Fifth Symphony. And so like before, Jakuzure's Goku uniform is taking the form of powerful sonic weaponry. And it seems to be particularly effective against Senketsu. So interestingly enough, Sanagayama is rooting for Ryuko, if only so he can fight her in the next round. So as Jakuzure prepares to fire another sonic blast, Ryuko's trying to do something to shield herself from the blast. And it seems like against all odds she's managed something. So it seems like Ryuko's sort of absorbing the sound, resonating it, rather than trying to resist it. So Jakuzuri is in utter disbelief that Ryuko can manage something like this. But rather than simply blocking the attack, Ryuko was absorbing it and is now redirecting it. So, there's an interesting artistic choice going on here, because there's a sort of sonic beam struggle going on. When Jakuzure puts more effort into it, you hear a bit of Beethoven's Fifth, whereas when Ryuko does, you hear the... I don't know the name of the soundtrack, but I guess the heroic theme that plays when Ryuko regains her resolve. Ultimately, because Ryuko has a Kamui, rather than a mere 30% life fiber 3-star uniform, she's ultimately able to overpower Jakuzure, and this time, absorb the life fibers for real. So now we see that character from earlier, and she is able to identify that Ryuko is wearing a Kamui, which leads us to believe that she knows something about what's going on. Now, true to what we suspected, Satsuki was planning this whole thing, and the idea behind Ryuko engaging the Elite Four was to sort of iron out any deficiencies in the Elite Four's uniforms. This sort of already happened with Sanagayama, but I guess another round of improvement couldn't hurt. So Sumugu and Mikisagi meet up again. And it looks like Sumugu has a silver bullet, so to speak. Based on their conversation, it seems like he's planning to use it on Ryuko. So now that Jakuzure is out of the way, Sanagayama gets his rematch with Ryuko in earnest. This time, Ryuko is prepared to fight him, and now she's considerably stronger than before, having absorbed many life fibers in the intervening time period. So, interestingly enough, Sanagayama's acting fairly friendly with Ryuko, despite the animosity that, I guess, should be present. He seems to be looking forward to this fight as more of like a friendly match than anything else. So he immediately transforms into his Blade Regalia Mark II in preparation of the final showdown. Likewise, Ryuko transforms Senketsu again. So, as they prepare to clash with each other, the stranger that's sort of been poking around before intervenes. Interestingly enough, Satsuki knows that something is not right, so she prompts Sanagama to get out while the getting's good. So they're sort of being kicked out of their freeloading positions, so Mako's family are going to go watch the fight in person at Honnoji Academy. So Satsuki identifies the intruder as Nui Harime. And while it's not immediately clear what her deal is, Satsuki seems to think she's serious business. Elsewhere, we have Satsuki's mother. She just seems to be taking a bath and getting dressed, but I guess the implication is that she is somewhat related to Nui Harime. So, based off this conversation between Satsuki's mom and her, I guess, assistant, the Grand Courtier is taking a visit to Honnoji Academy, which I suppose is Nui's title. So Nui is trying to be friendly with Satsuki, and she's not really making much headway. Satsuki seems to not care for her too much. So Nui asserts that she's going to fight Ryuko so that Sanagama might as well find a seat somewhere. And unfortunately for Sanagama, she can back up this phrase with fighting ability. She's able to block Sanagama's strike. It's even bad enough that Senketsu is getting a bad feeling about things. Nui is able to pluck the right life fiber in order to rend Sanagama's Goku uniform. It seems like she has the same sort of ability as Ryuko's Scissor Blade, despite using only her bare hands. Nui subtly taunts Satsuki by talking about the quality of the Goku uniform. Meanwhile, the sewing club president, he's sort of giving the lowdown on why Nui is so dangerous. Because apparently in all Goku uniforms, there's sort of one master thread that holds everything together. And that Nui was able to identify the Banshee, as it's called, and sever it, that's really not good for Honnoji Academy. So things have become complicated for Mr. Mikisagi and Tsumugu. So they both know of Nui Harume and how she's from Revox. So the implication being that if Nui's here, she was sent by Ragyo, Satsuki's mother. So the situation has become much more dangerous than it initially was. So Satsuki is clearly unsettled here, as is Ryuko. But Ryuko is taking the approach that if she has to beat up Nui to get to Satsuki, then so be it. She's not picky about who she has to beat up. So Nui, in an attempt to goad Ryuko into fighting all out, displays that she has the other half of the scissor blade. On top of that, Nui admits to murdering Dr. Matoi. So, having found out some information that she was curious about in a rather abrupt fashion, Ryuko is deeply unsettled. Alright, that's it for this episode. If you've enjoyed it, then by all means tune in for the next episode.